Hello and welcome to the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. This is your co-host Pat. Join with me as always are the two best fantasy football minds around, Brad the Dad and Josh the Boss. Follow us on Twitter at HattrickPat37 for myself, at Tack Jones for Brad, and at FFJoshHughes for Josh. If you like what you hear and want more hot takes, follow our podcast on Twitter at Empty Wagon Pod. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and now we're even on YouTube. Search Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcasts. Don't worry, it's just the audio, not our faces. And then, big thanks to Blue Spade Productions for spearheading our social media presence and getting our name out there, and sharing our passion project on the line. Follow them on Twitter at Blue Spade Pro. Let's get this show started and this wagon rolling, handing it over to your favorite fantasy football mind experts, Brad and Josh.
Thanks for that intro, Pat. So, Josh, how's your week been going?
Pretty good. 2.5 weeks after knee surgery now. I got a little bit more range of motion. Excited about that, my new brace. But I'm ready to start walking again. Only 3.5 more weeks, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, pretty good though. Pretty good. What about you guys?
That just means plenty of time to prepare for our awesome podcast, right?
Yeah, and I'm supposed to be doing some college too, but that part is not going well.
Yeah. All right. Yep. Awesome. And Pat, how's your week going?
Hey, it's going all right. Working on the golf game. Wife left for a month, so I'm all alone. Just me and Elsa. Elsa the Aussie. She's on Twitter. Follow her at Elsa the Aussie. Big fan of the show. She's actually our mascot.
Yeah, just so everybody knows at home, Elsa is his Australian Shepherd. So if you hear some heavy panting in the background, maybe a little whimper, a whine, maybe a bark, don't mind it. It's just the official Empty Wagon mascot.
I thought you were going to say it was just Josh, so I'm pretty glad you didn't sell me out like that.
No. We'll keep it classy in here.
Even though you do look like a homeless person right now.
I just hope, I'm not shaving at all. I just hope your wife listens to this and she can see the party, or hear the party that you're having going on over here. It's crazy over here, Tanya, if you're listening.
Yeah, just so everybody knows too, this is like take, we'll say 5, because we've had some technical difficulties, we'll call it.
A little bit, but it's okay. No big deal.
So, Pat, if you want to kick us off with our rumors and reports, the R&Rs.
All right, R's and R's, rumors and reports. Well, this is definitely a report. Hunter Henry, torn ACL, out. This is also in line with our tight end rankings. So how is this going to affect the Chargers and also some fantasy relevance, especially for those that had a very early draft and drafted Hunter Henry?
Was that you? Did you do that?
No, I did not.
I was going to say, that's pretty sad. No, Hunter Henry, obviously, I think a few people definitely had him projected as a top 10. Some people had him projected as a top 5 tight end. This was supposed to be his breakout year, and it's not going to pan out now. But, we'll see what happens with that. We talked about some guys who we think might take his place over there in L.A., but it is really a bummer for a lot of you guys who invested in him already. Luckily, it's been really, really early. I'm hoping that people will freak out in Dynasty and trade him to me.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Hunter Henry was really, I had a lot of big things for today. Or this year, sorry. Elsa the Aussie, being playful like always. But no, Hunter Henry. So I thought Antonio Gates was gone. We were going to do tight end ranks this week. I was going to plug Hunter Henry probably close to the top 5, if not in the top 5. And this news kind of just destroys all that for this year in redraft. Dynasty, I'm still looking forward to it because the one good thing about this is that it happened so early that next year he'll be ready to go. I mean, what was it, a couple years ago, Jordy Nelson blew out his ACL in the preseason. He said he could have played in the Super Bowl if they would have made it. So, I mean, Hunter Henry's younger than Jordy Nelson was when he tore his ACL. So, hopefully a great recovery, and he can come back next year and do everything that everybody expected this year.
Which leads us into Chargers pursuing Julius Thomas. Maybe, possibly. Is that true?
I actually like this a lot, Josh. I don't know how you feel about it, but I know as a Denver fan, you remember when Julius Thomas was good, when he had a good quarterback. Because since he's left Denver, he has not had a good quarterback to turn the ball in a good offense.
You mean Ryan Tannehill and Blake Bortles aren't good quarterbacks?
Yeah. That's
Blake Bortles.
That's exactly what I mean. So I think now that he's actually gone, and if he goes to the Chargers, I think this will work out well, very well for him. Phillip Rivers could use his talent the way that needs to be used and actually throw him catchable balls.
Yeah, he's still the best prospect on the open market. If they go back to the Antonio Gates I'm not interested in that at all. I mean, I was looking at all the numbers and what he did last year. He took a lot away from what Hunter Henry was going to do. They hurt each other, but Antonio Gates, if you guys have watched him play last year before last, it's very obvious. He's old, and he's not going to be a huge help to your team. So I'm not interested at all. I'd really like to see Julius Thomas do something. To me, that was the best possible prospect instead of Antonio Gates.
Not Coby Fleener?
No, Coby Fleener can just retire. Yeah, that's all I got to say about Coby Fleener. Good for you, though, bud.
I think the one difference between Julius Thomas and Coby Fleener, if you really look down to it, is I think Julius Thomas is a little bit better of a blocker, maybe a more pure tight end than what Coby Fleener is.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I watched a lot of when Julius Thomas was very good. He had that big tight end or that big touchdown year, the last year that he played in Denver, and that's what got him the big contract whenever he left. But to me, Julius Thomas is a guy who's been underutilized. He is a better prospect than Coby Fleener. Coby Fleener with those, he's never really been the guy that has broken out. Even when he had Andrew Luck, he had Drew Brees. I don't think that Phillip Rivers is going to be the guy that's going to make a difference with him. Phillip Rivers with Julius Thomas, though, to me that sounds like a really good situation to be in. Like you said, I 100% agree. I hope that it actually happens.
All right, moving right along to some more rumors. Adrian Peterson to the Bucks, didn't they just draft a young rookie stud at running back? How's this going to affect him? Is he just being brought in for a mentor role?
If this happens, I'll quit playing fantasy football. No, I won't do that. I don't want this to happen at all. I don't want it to happen.
No, I'm with you 100% too. Because Adrian Peterson, we saw what he did in the Saints last year. He is not a mentor type player. He wants the ball 20 to 30 times a game. That's how he is good too. That's when you see all his numbers when he's good. When he was good in Arizona last year, it's when they gave him the ball 20 times a game. In the Buccaneers role, he's not going to get the ball 20 times a game. So he's going to get upset. He's going to get mad. His numbers aren't going to look good. All he's going to do is maybe help you get a better draft pick because somebody in your league sees Adrian Peterson's name in like the 6th round and takes him.
Yeah, he's a guy who wears defenses down. That's how he gets his yards. He's not going to be a guy who's going to come straight out there and get you a bunch of yards in the first quarter, and unless he breaks one, which he's older now, so that's not going to happen. And he would muddy the whole backfield situation there, which what I don't want at all. I'm really excited about the prospect of, the new running back that they brought in with Rojo. They also got, Peyton Barber still there. I don't think they need Adrian Peterson, if we're being honest. I know they were interested before he signed with the Saints, but do you think they need him, Pat?
No, I think it could be a mentor role, especially for the young rookie running back.
Yeah.
We saw how he mentors his own kids, so I don't think they really let him mentor people in Tampa.
Yeah.
These are facts.
Yeah, he mentored the crap out of him with the old belt, didn't he?
No, hey, this is actually a great segue into the new NFL rules. Do you guys even want to talk about that?
The kickoff rule?
Well, I don't know. Did they pass a rule that you can't beat?
Well, you should never do that. That's pretty obvious that you should not abuse your children. The kickoff rule, though.
That's kind of, it sort of applies to fantasy a little bit if you're going to special teams points.
Yeah, and some guys actually get points for special teams touchdowns in some leagues, so it does matter. Because I do think that this will increase touchdowns because, you can only have 3 guys that are downfield.
Yeah, I think it's going to increase touchbacks. Your teams like the Patriots that always try to kick the ball short and have their guys run down there and tackle, They might just kick in the end zone now.
Well, we'll see what happens with it. That thing's interesting. I know what you were alluding to, though, was the big policy change, right?
Yeah, before we get into that, just so everybody knows, they changed the rule that now the kicking team cannot – nice phone there, Josh. The kicking team cannot get a running head start when covering a punt. The coverage players can't. And that's what we were talking about there.
Yeah, who cares about that?
And then the national anthem thing, and I think as a fantasy podcast, I honestly don't really care what happens before the game starts and after the game.
Well, I just like my freedom. That's all I got to say about that.
All right, less controversial. NBA Game 7. We got the Celtics going on right now. Can't watch them because I'm here, and Elsa won't allow us to be on the couch and watch TV. But also, Game 7 tomorrow, Houston Rockets and Golden State Warriors. Big one.
Golden State Warriors, luckiest team in NBA history. Every year a star player gets hurt, they're playing against.
Yeah, and I don't know. I really want to see Boston or Cleveland against Houston. I don't want to see Golden State again. I'm so sick of those guys. I mean, I understand they're a great team and all this other crap, but who cares? It's a really exciting time to be a basketball fan, though. I love 2 Game 7s. You said it's the first time it's happened in how long?
Since 1979.
79. That's a really, really long time in case you guys aren't keeping track. I wasn't even alive then.
Good public math there.
Yeah.
And then you got NHL Game 1 on tomorrow night. Vegas Golden Knights hosting the Washington Capitals. Ovi's, Alexander Ovechkin's first Stanley Cup. And Vegas' first Stanley Cup as well. But it's their first year. And no one really listens to hockey, and I understand that. So we'll move right along.
No. I did want to ask one question about hockey. Is this the Capitals' first Stanley Cup as well? I believe it is.
I think it is, actually, yes. So neither team has won a Stanley Cup. I mean, they keep marketing that, and that's good for the NHL. But really think Alexander Ovechkin needs to win if they want their ratings to go up, because you can talk all day long about the expansion draft, and we won't because we're an NFL fantasy football podcast, not the hockey. But it's an interesting storyline either way. But moving on into our tight end rankings.
Yes. This is what I care about.
Obviously. So we'll try and get the top 15 knocked out. We did the top 20. We differed on almost all of them. So we'll just go ahead and start at the top with good old Rob Gronkowski. Josh, you had him at 1, Brad, you had him at 1, and I had him at 3.
And we were talking pre-show. I really think Pat is knocking down his New England people on purpose just because he thinks if he puts them lower, they'll probably do better. But if he puts them number 1, Gronk will get hurt like he does every year.
There's still a good chance no matter what I put him at that Gronk's going to get hurt because he's made of glass.
He's on TB12 now. He's good.
I mean, he played 14 games last year, and one of them was because they took a week off, right?
I think they let him have a week off.
Yeah, so that's all good.
No, he got suspended because he
that's right. He elbowed that dude, but that wasn't an injury though. So I forgot, dude. I totally forgot about that.
No, yeah, he laid down on someone.
He WWE'd that dude. Yeah. So okay, let's get into the numbers. The numbers were 69 catches, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he caught 66% of those balls, and he still had the most yards out of all the tight ends on our list. 1,084 yards, 8 touchdowns. What I thought was really impressive is yards per catch, 16 yards per catch. He was their downfield guy. It's 16.2 points a game. I mean, Gronkowski, for me, easy number 1. The problem with Gronk in your fantasy leagues is he's going to go really high. And I'm not touching a tight end unless it's one of our top 3 in the first 3 rounds. And I'm probably not going to get one of them in the 4th. So for me, it's a tough thing to sit there and say these guys are that good. They are, and they're worth it. Just for me, it's not my particular draft strategy. What do you think about that?
Just so everybody knows, let me break down the tight ends. Just like every ranking we've done, these are PPR formatted, full point, just so no confusion out there. But Gronk, my thing with Gronk is, like we talked, you said he had 16 yards per catch? Brandon Cooks is gone. They're trying to, Edelman's back. So Edelman's going to be short yardage again. I mean, Gronk is that down the field. He just can beat up a safety. He's too big, too strong for a safety to cover him. I mean, that's what you get, and then Brady's going to go there when he can. I want to see what New England looks like this year with the changing of the wide receivers. I think it's going to go more towards the way it was a couple of years ago. I mean, Danny Amendola's gone. They actually lost a lot in the wide receiver core. This could help Gronk's value because less targets, less mouths to feed out there.
Yeah, and he's already one of the best.
And Deion Lewis is gone too. So, but moving right along to Travis Kelce, number 2. Josh, you had him at 2. Brad had him at 2. And I had him actually at number 1. I'm surprised you didn't have him at number 1, Brad, because of Patrick Mahomes, your new love affair. But no, I just think Travis Kelce is more talented than Gronk. He's not injury prone. And I do like Patrick Mahomes. I like the prospect of him and Mahomes connection.
So the thing I worry about with Travis Kelce is touchdown regression. He's never been a big touchdown guy like Gronk is. Last year he had 8 touchdowns, which actually matched Gronk. But if you look prior years, his touchdown numbers are actually very low. He gets a lot of catches, yes, but that was with Alex Smith back there. Now with big arm Patrick Mahomes back there, with Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill, I don't know how much he's going to look for checkdowns and stuff. Because we knew Alex Smith was going to go for the safe play which would be a Travis Kelce over the middle.
Yeah, and his arm's just so big.
It's so big and so strong.
It's just such a big arm. Why would you do anything so short with something that huge?
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
All right, getting a little weird up in here, but it's a rookie quarterback. I mean, we can say that, right? Because
Sophomore.
I mean, is Ben Simmons a rookie? Because apparently he is, but he's
NBA rules are different. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, more like a rookie quarterback. I think he'll look more to the check down than college years when he did have that big arm and he threw it all over the field.
Yeah, and you still got to think, I mean, this is still an Andy Reid offense, right? So that's not going to change much. And he had the most catches out of everyone on our list with 83. He's still going to have a lot of catches. He's going to have opportunities in this offense, even though they have new weapons. Andy Reid is going to utilize this tight end. We do know that. And if Patrick Mahomes, like you said, being a younger guy, I do think he will check it down to him. And like you said, he is probably now, because he's a little bit younger than Gronk, he's less injury prone. He might be better than him. I still don't completely agree with that. And obviously for me, the tipping point was Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. But Travis Kelce, totally great option that you gave here. 122 targets last year. That's really, really impressive. And I'm anxious to see what he's going to do. I'm going to definitely pay attention to the preseason stuff.
Yep. So I think we can move on to number 3. Zach Ertz. I don't know what to really say about Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is what Zach Ertz is. He played in 14 games last year, had 110 targets, 74 catches, 824 yards, 8 touchdowns, which I think is kind of weird that all 3 of the top 3 guys had 8 touchdowns. I might have to go double check my numbers on that. And he got 14 and a half fantasy points per game. I mean, if he was on the field, you started him, you played him, and you were happy about him. I think it was a little surprising last year. I think he went a lot later in drafts. I don't think it's going to happen again this year. I think he's up in that tier with the Kelce and Gronk now, especially with Carson Wentz. Or even if Nick Foles starts out. We know Nick Foles isn't scared to throw the ball to Zach Ertz.
Yeah, this is a clear tier break for me. And if people are worried about Dallas Goedert coming in here and needing to his production, you don't have to worry about that. One, he's a rookie. Rookie tight ends normally do not perform well. There's been 2 in recent memory I can think of, Gronk and Evan Ingram. Outside of that, you're not going to have a tight end who's going to come in and perform very well. They'll probably use him some 2 tight end sets, but he's not going to eat into Ertz productions. Trey Burton was there, and Trey Burton was far more talented than Dallas Goedert will ever be. So that's my opinion anyway. I like Zach Ertz a lot, man. We know how they're going to use him. We know that they're still going to target him the same way. It doesn't matter if Foles is there. It doesn't matter if, they got Carson Wentz behind center. I'm good with these top 3, and these are clearly our top 3. You can shuffle them around pretty much however you want, but this is a clear, like a platinum tier, and then below that is just some freaking fodder that I'm not really that impressed with, to be honest with you.
Well, we'll get to number 4 in a second because I think he might actually still be in this top tier. But going back to what you said about Zach Ertz, you don't know what to say about him. I'll say that he's better than Trey Burton.
Well, Zach Ertz is, yeah, of course. But I was talking about how Dallas Goedert isn't going to be better. Isn't better than Trey Burton.
The last thing I'm going to say about Zach Ertz is, Rob, you're probably not going to be able to wait till late in the draft to get him this year like you tried to every year. Just shout out to one of our fans.
Yeah. Good luck with that, Rob.
On number 4, Jimmy Graham. Josh, not a big Jimmy Graham fan, had him at number 8. And me and Brad had him at number 4. He's the first tight end that we're going to talk about that played all 16 games last year. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Josh, about why is Jimmy Graham at number 8?
Because he's 1 billion years old. It's pretty straightforward. No, he's got Aaron Rodgers. I had him at 8, which was still top 10 for me. I don't know. We've already know that they're going to, utilize a lot of their weapons. We still don't know how they're going to use Ty Montgomery in this offense. Devontae Adams is going to be the number 1. He's going to be the guy that they look to in the red zone. We talked about that. So he's going to take the Jordy Nelson touchdowns. So he'll probably still get those touchdowns. He had 10 last year. I could still see him getting 10. The issue is that I just don't know how many guys he's going to beat anymore. Off the line when it comes to those. If he's not outside of the 20s or inside the 20s, excuse me, I just don't know how reliable he's going to be on you. I think he's still going to be in the situation where he was last year, where he's going to, blow up your team some weeks, give you 0 points, and you were really banking on him. And if you draft him high, like a lot of people still do, he's going to hurt your team.
Yeah. I love Jimmy Graham. If you guys remember from a few podcasts ago, I said Jimmy Graham my bold prediction was number 1 tight end this year. Obviously, I'm not going to rank him that way because I'm not completely crazy. It's not going to go bold prediction on my rankings and destroy all my credibility. But the thing about Jimmy Graham that I loved last year was his work in the red zone. Like you said, he's getting older. He knows he can't beat the safeties off the line anymore like he used to back in New Orleans, back when he had those huge ears. But he still knows how to go back to his old basketball skills of boxing out and getting a touchdown pass. And Aaron Rodgers will use him in the end zone because they have Devontae Adams and all this. So if you're playing defense against them and they're on the 10-yard line and you know Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball because, let's be honest, nobody's really scared of any of the running backs in Green Bay, they're going to probably double Devontae Adams. And Jimmy Graham probably will get single coverage with a safety or a linebacker or a nickel corner. And that's obviously a mismatch that Aaron Rodgers will take advantage of. I mean, Russell Wilson took advantage of it last year all the time. It was on the 1-yard line. That's why his numbers didn't look so good in non-PPR, because it'd be 1 catch for 1 touchdown. If you want 1 for 1, you want it for 1.
1 for 1. Yeah, that's a great stat to have.
And yeah, that name you just mentioned was pretty sure that was our unanimous number 1 in QB rankings was Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm not arguing that. To me, the whole prospect of Jimmy Graham is not an exciting one. I'm really worried about him breaking down a little bit more, kind of like we were talking about with Antonio Gates. I see him coming on the downslide, obviously. And I'd be surprised if he plays in 16 games, to be honest.
Well, I don't know why, because no one ever gets injured in Green Bay. Yeah. Speaking of injuries, number 5, Greg Olsen. Josh had him at 4, Brad had him at 7, and I had him at number 8.
So I'll kind of take this. Greg Olsen. Josh, I know when you originally did your rankings, you kind of forgot about him a little bit. And then you're the highest one to rank him here, which I think is kind of funny. The thing that worries me about Greg Olsen is I think this is his swan song year. So I think he will leave it all out there on the field. You never have to question Greg Olsen's worth ethic or any of that. He plays 100% every play. He's always in your top 10 tight end ones. But he's old. Like you said, Jimmy Graham. You say Jimmy Graham's old? Greg Olsen's got him by years. And last year's numbers aren't pretty because obviously he only played in 7 games. But I think if you break those 7 games in, there's injury games and stuff that kind of destroy his numbers. It's Cam Newton. Cam Newton likes clone to Greg Olsen. If he plays 16 games, he will be probably a top 5 tight end.
Yeah, that's my thing is like, he plays 16, he's going to be the guy because Cam Newton loves Greg Olsen. We've seen that. It's year in and year out. The main concern with him is even though where I had him ranked out to me was pretty good, pretty accurate because like we talked about, Cam Newton is going to look for him. But the issue is the surgery that he had on his foot is one of those that half the time you have to have a second surgery. I don't know what the number is, but I know it's a really high percentage. This is the Julio Jones injury that he had, the Dez Bryant one, where they hurt their foot.
Yeah, Julian Edelman had the same surgery. A lot of players have had this surgery, and it takes them usually another surgery to get back to where they were.
You are a resident surgery expert, so you should know.
Yeah, I've had 2 knee surgeries myself, so I mean, come on, guys, I know what I'm talking about here. Yeah, we'll see. I like Greg Olsen, though. I like his prospects this year. I think he is going to lay it all out there. You guys got to remember, even last year, your boy from Dallas was still number 9 overall tight end, Jason Witten, in PPR. And Jason Witten didn't have the same kind of target rate that Greg Olsen's going to have in Carolina. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him as a top 5 tight end because the tight ends aren't very deep anyway.
Yep, I agree. I mean, like you said, after the top 3, these next, I'm going to say 5 we have, or at least the next 3 are you're still scared and you're worried about with Jimmy Graham, Greg Olsen, and then rolling into our next guy. If you just want to go ahead and hit it up, Pat.
Yeah, Rudolph the Red Zone Reindeer.
I like
Kyle
that.
Rudolph. Playing for the Vikings with that brand new shiny quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Apparently you don't like it, Josh, because you had him at 9, and me and Brad had him at 5.
Well, I'll take this first off. The reason I had him all the way up to number 5, even though he had a terrible year last year, if you go back 2 years ago, he had a really good year. Last year was a very down year. But he gets Kirk Cousins. And the one thing I remember from that Washington offense is Jordan Reed was his go-to touchdown weapon. When Jordan Reed wasn't in the offense, Kirk Cousins did not throw touchdown passes. I know he has a better wide receiver core in Minnesota than he had in Washington, but he still loves that tight end. And you can't tell me that they're not going to kind of change their offense to mimic a little bit of what Washington does, what he does good.
No, I'm not. But, you also got to understand that Kyle Rudolph isn't half as talented as Jordan Reed is.
But he's on the field twice as much, so that makes up for it.
That's not how you project these things up. That's not how you do it. No. Yeah, he is on the field more. He stays healthy. We know that. Greg Olsen, yeah, he's a solid player, but he's not nearly the tight end that Jordan Reed is, like I said. His numbers were pretty good from last year, but to me, even with Kirk Cousins, I'm not that impressed, man. I don't see how he's going to be the go-to guy. They have too many other weapons, and Kyle Rudolph, I think this is going to hurt him, Kirk Cousins coming in. I don't think it's going to help his value.
So you're telling me Kirk Cousins is a worse quarterback for him than Case Keenum or Sam Bradford?
I'm saying that he spreads the ball around more, and he doesn't have to look at a tight end. You got to understand, even when Jordan Reed was playing, there's several games Jordan Reed came up no targets.
Yeah, but his name isn't the first down reindeer. It's the red zone reindeer. And what you're looking for with
that's not his literal name.
It's touchdowns.
You can't just throw that out there. It's not his birth certificate. Okay.
It might as well be because he had 8 touchdowns, much like our top 3 tight ends. So
if so, fact so.
Okay, well,
I'm just joking.
If this is how we're doing it,
let's not argue
the
this
show's
too much.
gone off the rails. I don't know what to do anymore.
No, Josh made good points about having other targets versus being in Washington and, having no targets. So that's a good point.
Yeah, who's he throwing the ball
to? Could hurt
to?
Kyle Rudolph's value. Evan Ingram, number 7. Josh, you like him. You had him at number 5. Brad had him at 6, and I had him at 9. He played in 15 games. So, good amount of games, good amount of workload. But only 6 touchdowns and follow the line, 64 catches.
Yeah, 64 catches. He had a 56% catch rate, which was not very good. But what I was looking at, 115 targets, right? So 115 targets from Eli Manning. I understand the receiving core was depleted last year, and I'm not arguing against that. Odell Beckham will be back, but he got just as many targets on a per-game basis with Odell there and without him there. So it really wasn't going to matter that much. And this is his sophomore year where tight ends normally end up improving. So he was a rookie last year, not very familiar with the offense. Most of the time rookies don't perform that well. To me, I just see nothing but a bump up. The only thing that's going to hurt his value is his quarterback.
Well, the other thing that's going to hurt his value is that they do not run the ball very well in New York last year. And they did spend, I believe, a pretty high draft pick on a running back, Saquon Barkley. I don't know if anybody out there in the fantasy world has heard of Saquon Barkley. But
kind of a big
Evan
deal.
Ingram does not block well. And that's his knock. Same thing Jimmy Graham has. Of these tight ends we talked about, they're probably the 2 worst at blocking. They always split them out. They're almost like slot receivers more than tight ends. They get the tight end mark on a fantasy thing, which actually you like when you're playing fantasy, but they're more of a slot wide receiver. Evan Ingram's target share, like Pat said, workload. He had the workload last year. Like you said, Odell was out. Sterling Shepard was out. Brandon Marshall was out. They had no healthy wide receivers. He was the best option that Eli had last year. I think his numbers will fall. That's why I had him at 6, but I still like the upside. I still like the possibility because when Odell's healthy, like I talked about with Jimmy Graham, Odell's getting the double coverage. Odell is the number 1 threat. So Evan Ingram will be one-on-one with corners and safeties and probably a linebacker a couple times a game. And even Eli can't mess that up.
Well, it's funny you should say Eli. That's why I had him at number 9. Eli Manning.
Yeah,
I just don't trust him. I don't like him, but I'll keep that aside for obvious reasons.
How many Super Bowls Eli won?
You want to get stabbed? Anyway. And also Saquon Barkley going at number 1. That's going to change the offense. Not taking anything away from Evan Ingram. He did have a amazing rookie year for a tight end and being in New York under the Antichrist. So we'll see what he does this year.
I'm just hoping we'll see the first empty wagon assault right now. Pretty excited.
It would make sense, just like the Badlands. Number 8, Delaney Walker from the tight ends. Titans kid. All right.
Yeah. I had him at
Josh,
7.
you had him at 7. Brad, you had him at 9. I had him at 6. I like him way more than Evan Ingram. I think has a better quarterback. Now he has better offense. Oh, sorry. You want to add to that, Brad?
Okay, you can say he has a better quarterback. I know we all want Mariota to be a better quarterback, but Eli's numbers, passing-wise, are better than Mariota's almost every year. Mariota gets the bump in fantasy because he's rushing. Delaney Walker's, you're never excited to have him on your team, but he's always a tight end one, a low end tight end one that always just gets you points. Like it's nothing flashy. He's not going to win you a week, but he won't lose you the week because he'll get his 5 catches, 60 yards, and you'll be like, oh, all right, whatever. Cool. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'd be happy if a tight end got me 11 points every week, which is what he averaged. So sign me up.
Yeah, I could live with that. And he's probably going to end up going later than a lot of these other guys that we mentioned already. If he gets by on anything, people will be like, well, yeah, he's old or whatever. We have people in our leagues who target him every year, and they get a steal for him. He's just one of those guys, like you said, you're not excited about. But if you take him, you're kind of happy with the results because he gets hyper-targeted by Mariota because Mariota, quite frankly, doesn't have a lot of options. But their best receiver last year was Rashard Matthews, and that was not impressive. So I would see how Delanie Walker's still going to be the guy. He just doesn't get a lot of yards. In PPR, that doesn't matter anyway. With 74 targets, he had a pretty high catch rate at 67%. That's pretty good. And not 7 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns, though. That's what kind of hurt him right here. He would have been up higher if he would have got more TDs. And I think he will get more next year.
You can't get much less.
Well, you can if you're Julio Jones. You can get 3. So.
Well, that's what he had, 3. So.
Yeah, but, I mean, Julio would probably get less.
Yeah. But Delanie Walker, I mean, like I said, you're not excited about it, but you're not upset about it. I think we can move on here, Pat, if you want to lead us into the next one.
Cameron Brate coming out at number 9. Josh, you had him at 10. Brad, you had him at 8. I had him at number 7. Played in all 16 games. Got 77 catches for 6 touchdowns and averaged just under 9 points per game. So pretty efficient tight end. Definitely your, I guess if you want to call it that third tier. We're kind of getting into that now.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of worried about how they're going to spread the ball around in Tampa. Now, they have so many weapons. I think that's why I pushed him all the way to 10 is I liked guys above him who were already mentioned. There was one more guy I had above him, but whatever. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, to me, there's just so many things going on there. And this is the second year that they have, the tight end that they got from Alabama. I can't even remember his name right now because I hate him so much.
O.J. Howard.
Yeah, O.J. Howard, whatever. He's a really great tight end. I will give him that. He is a really great tight end, and I could see that hurting Cameron Brate's value. Towards the end of the season, he started getting a little bit more catches. If Jameis Winston can get his eyes right and actually throw to his receivers, I could see O.J. Howard easily affecting Cameron Brate in a negative impact or in a negative way. And he's not going to get 6 touchdowns again this year. I just don't see that happening. Yeah, I mean, but the issue is, like we said, the tight end pool is so shallow.
Yeah. So, honestly, when I did those rankings, I had him not the highest, but I had him at 8. I was really surprised I had him that high. But then I started thinking last year, when Jameis Winston missed a lot of games last year. When Jameis Winston was on the field, Cameron Brate was the tight end he went after. That was the tight end he targeted. He targeted Cameron Brate more than Mike Evans, which I know everybody's like, what? Because Mike Evans last year was a number 1 wide receiver in fantasy drafts, number 1 round wide receiver. He won't be that this year, but I think that Jameis Winston has always, ever since he was at Florida State, has always targeted tight ends a lot. And I think he likes Cameron Brate. They just re-signed him in the offseason to a big long-term deal. So the O.J. Howard thing doesn't scare me as much. I think they drafted O.J. Howard as more of a blocking tight end. I know it doesn't really make sense. They drafted him pretty high last year, but I think they see him more as a blocker guy that needs to work on his route running. And they don't like his route running right now. I mean, he had big plays, but they were broken plays last year, if you remember O.J. Howard's touchdowns.
Yeah, I just wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year, O.J. Howard being the number 1 tight end in this offense and Cameron Brate being the number 2. I could see him working himself into that role and really hurting Cameron Brate, especially midway through the season. So that's my take on it. I mean, do you have anything you want to add, Pat?
He's been efficient over the last 3 years. Kind of what Brad said about Winston targeting Cameron Brate. But I think we've talked about enough about Cameron Brate, so we'll move right along to your guy.
All aboard the hype train.
I love him.
Yep, roll out that train. We have him at number 10. So, yeah.
I had him ranked at 6.
You did, Josh. You had him at 6, and then me and Brad sensibly had him at number 10.
Are we going to mention his name? Are we going to mention the name? Oh, Trey Burton, just so everybody.
His name needs to be mentioned at least once a podcast. I just throw that out. No, I really do love him. I love what he does. I've talked about him numerous times. We don't have to really keep harping on Trey Burton and why I think he's so great.
Just take it away. Go.
But I do think he's great. Matt Nagy's already said that he's going to fill the Travis Kelce role. We've talked about all this stuff over and over and over. I love what Trey Burton brings to the table. I've seen him play in several games. He could easily be just as talented as Zach Ertz. So, and get those same numbers that he was getting in that offense. Oh, no, sorry. Excuse me. As talented as Travis Kelce, getting the numbers that he was getting in that offense, as last year he was Zach Ertz's kind of backup.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. So I've been doing some mock drafts this week, started mock drafting, getting ready for the season. And I actually got Trey Burton later in a draft as my number 1 tight end. And I wasn't too upset about it because it is a wild card. You really don't know what he's going to do because we haven't seen him be the tight end in the offense yet. He's plugged in for Zach Ertz when Zach Ertz missed. We know he can throw a nice touchdown pass to a quarterback. But other than that, I mean, we'll see how they actually use him in the offense. I always get nervous when coaches talk about how they're going to use a player in the offseason before preseason even starts or anything because you don't know, are they blowing smoke at places you don't want smoke at or what, so.
There's some places you don't want smoke.
Trying to keep it PG-13 in here.
Well, yeah, like your electrical wiring. That's what I was talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, Brad. Anyway. All right.
I think that's the last exciting tight end we're going to talk about. I mean, I guess you can. Okay, fine. You're really going to make some excitement out of number 11 here. All right, Jordan Reed. Brad, you had him at 13, and me and Josh had him at 12. So if you're so excited about Jordan Reed, please take it away.
All right. So Jordan Reed had him at 13. What's the problem with Jordan Reed every year? Injuries, concussions. Yeah. You don't know if he's on the field. But when he's on the field, you start him. If he's on your team and he's healthy and he's going to play that week, you start him, and you're happy about it. Now he gets Alex Smith, who we just talked about, Travis Kelce, who he targeted a ton. So, and the wide receiver core is way worse in Washington. So when Jordan Reed is on the field, try not to tell me that Alex Smith isn't going to throw him the ball 15 to 20 times a game.
Well, yeah, but he's SAWFT. He's soft. So we don't really need to worry about Jordan Reed. He's soft. It is what it is. I worry about his safety. I think he should retire, to be honest with you. But if he's on the field, he doesn't get hurt. Easily top 5 talent. We've seen those flashes.
Yeah, we've seen him in the top 5 of tight ends when he plays 13 games in the season.
But that's really rare for him to be healthy all year. 6 games last year?
Yeah, and those 6 games, there was a lot where he just wasn't 100%, wasn't playing right. He had an ankle in the offseason last year, I think, even before the season started, his ankle or foot. Yeah. And then you talk about the concussion issues he's had. Like you said, it does worry me, but like we said, if he is healthy, or if I'm at the end of a draft and nobody's taking him, and we're talking around 13, 14, 15, my roster's filled out and I need a backup, I might take a shot at him.
Jordan Reed, please listen to me. Listen to me right now. Please.
Because he's listening.
Please retire. Please retire.
So your exciting tight end, you're taking a number 13 or 13th round?
It's called upside.
Yeah, well, hopefully this next guy I have a little bit of upside for you.
Yeah. I kind of want to do our next 2 together, 12 and 13, because I think they kind of fell there because we don't know what to expect out of both these guys.
Not for me.
It's Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle. Josh had the biggest gap between the two. He had Eric Ebron at 11 and Jack Doyle at 19. I had Ebron at 16. Pat had Ebron at 14. And we both had Doyle at 11. So obviously you like Eric Ebron a lot more than Jack Doyle.
Yeah, I do. Because I don't like those extra small hands. Jack Doyle. One's clearly more athletic than the other. Yeah, Eric Ebron is more athletic than him. I'm sorry, but he is. Yeah, with that giant freaking broken nose of his, the dude is going to go out there, and if he could just catch, he's going to be way better. It's going to be way better than that. I just don't like Jack Doyle. I think Eric Ebron's presence is really going to hurt him. It is what it is, but I just don't see how it's going to benefit him at all. Eric Ebron last year had 86 targets from Matt Stafford, 53 catches. Last year, Jack Doyle had 108. You can't sit there and tell me that Eric Ebron coming into the offense, who is more athletic, faster, and he's got worse hands than Jack Doyle. You can't tell me that he's not going to take some of these targets away from him. Jack Doyle is not an athlete. He was never supposed to be that guy. It's just lack of options in Indianapolis.
You're correct. I mean, it is lack of options, but Jack Doyle has ran more athletic tight ends out of there. They've had more athletic tight ends that were supposed to be better that have left.
Who, Dwayne Allen?
Yeah. Dwayne Allen, who every year he was in Indianapolis, caught a touchdown pass week 1.
Yeah, well, he's not that great.
I think the biggest thing is Andrew Luck comes back. I think they both could be serviceable tight ends. The problem is you're not going to – one of them's going to have a good week and the other one's going to have a down week. You're not going to know which one to start. And that's going to be the problem. And that's what I'm going to be worried about when I'm picking one of these tight ends.
Is this 80% catch rate for Jack Doyle? Is that accurate?
I mean, that's what the number said.
That's very high. I'm actually kind of surprised to see it being that high.
But when you look, he had a lot of targets.
Yeah, I mean, well, there was no offensive line, so he had to get dumped off really quick.
Yep.
They've invested in the offensive line this year, and if Andrew Luck is healthy, they're going to have more time to throw to a more athletic guy like Eric Ebron.
Yeah. The problem is that neither one of them block well. And we kind of talked about that. When you don't block well as a tight end, it's hard to get on the field. We saw that with Jimmy Graham last year. Luke Wilson was getting a lot more targets than he was because he was just on the field more because he could block better.
But what do you think about these guys, Pat?
I think Jack Doyle's has proven himself more. I think there's a reason quarterbacks like him. I think he gets to the open spot of the field, especially in check down situations, which Indy has a lot of them.
Yep. And that's about the Colts tight ends I really want to talk about. Like I said, Andrew Luck's there. They could probably both be top 15, possibly both tight end ones, maybe in a deep league. Top 12 tight ends. But without Andrew Luck there, I get really nervous with Jacoby Brissett spreading the ball around.
Go Brisket.
Yeah. I mean, they do have, like you said, targets. They did lose a wide receiver. So Dante Moncrief's gone. So that kind of does open up a little bit of targets for Eric Ebron, which they said they're trying to work him like in the slot role. I don't know how it's going to work out. We'll see.
If he could just catch, man. I'm telling you, if he could just catch, which is kind of important.
It's a little bit important.
Yeah, if he could just catch, he would work out really well. So the next guy, I was really surprised that he was as high as he was. I mean,
Jared Cook?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the numbers.
You had him at 13.
Yeah.
You were the highest one on him.
But that's what I'm saying. When I ran the numbers, I was really surprised about it.
Well, Brad had him at 14, I had him at 18. Why are you surprised about Jared Cook?
Because of how good his numbers really were. I mean, Jared Cook has never been that guy who's blown you away, but he was almost a tight end 1. I mean, he was almost in the top 12 here. And with a Hunter Henry injury, he's only even closer to that. He's a guy who kind of surprised you a little bit.
The surprising thing with Jared Cook is that he led the Raiders in targets last year. I don't know if you know that. With Amari Cooper and Crabtree, who missed some games, he was actually the leader for the Raiders in targets and I believe catches. I'm not sure about catches, but I know in targets he was the leader on the team with 86 targets. And a John Gruden offense, which I don't even know what that's going to be like in today's NFL, because obviously John Gruden's offense isn't going to be what it was in 2003. So
maybe it's exactly the same. Wouldn't that be awesome if he hasn't evolved at all?
It's a wise investment there, if that's the case. We'll round out our tight. We'll just do some honorable mentions here. Do you want to talk about Tyler Kroft?
He's 15. Who cares?
All right. Charles Clay, George Kittle, Austin Hooper, Ricky Seals-Jones, David Njoku.
David Njoku is the guy that could surprise some people.
My surprise is probably George Kittle. You guys were way too low on, I think. I am way too high, probably at 12.
Yes.
But you guys, if I remember from our quarterback podcast, you had that 49er quarterback pretty high.
It wasn't based off of George Kittle. It was based off of Kyle Juszczyk.
So when you're comparing him, because he's called the baby goat, right? And the last time I remember,
he is baby goat.
The big goat uses his tight end a lot, right? I think we talked about that earlier. Oh, yeah, Rob Gronkowski.
Kind of important guy.
Baby goat's just going to make it happen with whoever's on the field. So I guess I can see that. But no, I'm not buying into George Kittle. I'll just buy into Baby Goat. He'll just do it. He'll pass it to himself and catch it and run it. And
yeah, you guys can keep George Skittles. I'm not really impressed with him. Whatever. I don't think he's going to surprise people. He's not that great. He's definitely not a tight end 1.
Hayden Hurst, why isn't he here? Huh?
He's older than half the tight ends on our list already, and he's a rookie.
Irrelevant.
Well, being 25 is kind of relevant.
Means you're ready. Means you're pro ready. That's what that means.
He's going to be a blocking tight end primarily.
It just means that your baseball career didn't pan out. That's all that means. So,
and I think that wraps up our tight end ranking segment. Anything to add to any tight ends that we mentioned, maybe didn't mention? Or are you guys pretty much done with ranking these tight ends and talking about them?
I'll admit, I hate ranking tight ends. I hate tight ends.
Yeah, it's so hard to get pumped because there's a huge drop-off, right? So after our top 3, no one else cracked 200 points. The closest person was Jimmy Graham.
And unless you're in a really crazy draft where nobody takes tight ends, somebody's going to reach on these tight ends and start a run on tight ends, and you're just going to be like, I do not want to take Jimmy Graham in the 4th round.
Yeah, that's the important thing to remember with tight ends is, like, don't overpay for these guys, right? So if you're not getting one of these 3 premier guys, and even then, you have to sit there and willingly accept the fact that you're going to hurt yourself in another position early to get one of these 3 guys. You got to be okay with that because you're going to lose out on a wide receiver or a running back to get these guys. And after that, you need to just wait because people are going to jump on the Jimmy Grahams and the Greg Olsons and just wait for a guy like a Trey Burton, a Jordan Reed. You know, wait for your guy. If you really believe in George Kittle, wait for him.
Yeah, and I think you could stream. Like, you could look at George Kittle and be like, all right, I'm going to start him for the first couple weeks of the season. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but or you can take Austin Hooper in a couple games because Austin Hooper had some big games last year. Yeah, they were 2 and far between, and it's a crapshoot of when's going to happen. But streaming these guys, and if you pick the right weeks and you get lucky, let's be honest, fantasy's 90% luck. Nobody thought Todd Gurley was going to be what Todd Gurley was last year, and he won everybody championships.
Yeah, and if I had another sleeper I want to mention is Ricky Seals-Jones. We didn't talk about him, but Ricky Seals-Jones with Sam Bradford there.
Checkdowns.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised to see Ricky Seals-Jones finish as a pretty high top 15. I mean, it's not that hard to attain top 15 in tight ends. Ricky Seals-Jones could easily be there.
Yep. And for everybody listening, just so you know, Brad the Dad might be away for some of these next couple podcasts over the next month. I'm going on vacation with the family. I'm going to try to Skype in when I can, but it might be Pat and Josh holding down the fort, holding down this wagon, keeping the wheels from falling off.
Oh, yeah.
Show's going to be 100 times better, so I'm excited.
Yeah, you won't have me and Josh fighting for no real reason.
Yeah, you'll have me and Josh fighting.
Yeah, because we're not even friends. I found that out today. I didn't know this. I thought me and Pat were friends. We're clearly not.
We can't be business partners and friends. That doesn't work.
All right, well, have a good one, guys. I'm just going to go drink now.
All righty. Pat, you want to send us off into the rest of this Memorial weekend?
Yeah, this concludes our Empty Wagon Fantasy Football podcast. Thanks for listening, as always. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and big thanks to Blue Spade Productions for hooking us up and getting us on the line, getting us out there, getting everyone hearing the great words of Brad the Dad and Josh the Boss. Follow them at Tack Jones, at FF Josh Hughes, and myself at Hattrick Pat 37. So that's a wrap for this wagon. Hope to see you next week.
All right, just want to give a shout out to Elsa for not barking the whole podcast. Worked out a lot better.
Yeah, this podcast brought to you by Skippy Peanut Butter.
Keeping dogs quiet. All right, Josh, I'll see you.
Later, guys.